Good evening. I hereby call to order the Board of Directors rescheduled meeting of the New Jersey Transit Corporation, New Jersey Transit Rail Operations, Inc., New Jersey Transit Bus Operations, Inc., New Jersey Transit Mercer, Inc., and New Jersey Transit Morris, Inc.
At this time, Rich Hopkins will deliver the public safety announcement.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If you have your attention for a minute, I'll just give a quick safety briefing. At New Jersey Transit, your safety is our highest priority. Please listen to these safety instructions in case of an emergency. In an emergency, announcements will be made over the loudspeaker by a uniformed police officer. The primary exits in this location is the stairwell located in the lobby adjacent to the elevators, which will be out these doors through the double doors by the elevators to the right. The second staircase through the doors is just adjacent over here to your right. New Jersey Transit Police will call for additional assistance. Administer CPR in the use of the defibrillator located near the elevator if necessary. Fire extinguishers are located in the front and rear of the room. Please be guided by the directions of the New Jersey Transit Police and staff. Thank you and have a safe day. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, Chair Gutierrez, Scacchetti, and board members. I will now take roll call. Chair Gutierrez, Scacchetti.
Here.
Board Member Caulfield.
Here.
Board Member Ajmani. Here. Board Member Castillo.
Here.
Thank you. And for the record, Board Member Greaves is absent at today's meeting. Next is the Open Public Meetings Notice. Adequate notice of today's rescheduled meetings of the Board of Directors of the New Jersey Transit Corporation, New Jersey Transit Rail Operations, New Jersey Transit Bus Operations, New Jersey Transit Mercer, and New Jersey Transit Morris has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act and Public Law 2018, Chapter 162. The meetings will occur concurrently. Notices were filed on March 7, 2019 with the Secretary of State. These notices were sent to newspapers of general distribution, posted in the main entrance of New Jersey Transit headquarters, published on the corporation's website, and sent to each individual, agency, and organization that requested such notice. The meetings are viewable on the corporation's website in real time and will be video recorded, archived, and made available to the public. Minutes will also be archived and published on the website. Thank you.
May I have a motion to enter into executive session to discuss personnel matters, contract negotiations, the status of pending and anticipated litigation, and matters falling within the attorney-client privilege, including but not limited to the County Yard Improvement Project, acquisition of the easements from Amtrak and a remediation agreement for the Millstone Industrial Tract and certain properties adjacent to County Yard. The County Yard Improvement Project, acquisition of 298 Jersey Avenue, LLC, and 120 Jersey Avenue, LLC, New Brunswick, New Jersey, private property. The New Jersey Transit Portal North Bridge Project, real estate acquisition, and the personal injury claim of Solbrina Fajaro. May I have a motion to enter into executive session? Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We'll be back shortly. Begin to settle down so we can reconvene open session.
Diane, we have to stop serving alcohol before you.
Or cake or something.
Yeah, right.
Thank you all very much. Joyce, would you please take roll call?
Roll call. Chair Gutierrez-Cacchetti.
Yes.
Board Member Caulfield.
Here.
Board Member Ajmani.
Yes. Here.
Board Member Castillo.
Here.
Thank you.
May I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the February 13th, 2019 board meetings?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion is carried. I now ask Executive Director Corbett to present the Executive Director's monthly report.
Good evening, Chair Scacchetti and members of the board. I would like to start highlighting with the restoration of the Atlantic City rail line and the Dinky restoration. As many of you know, 2 weeks ago at a customer forum in Cherry Hill, I was pleased with the chair to announce the restoration of Atlantic City line and Princeton Dinky, and that they will both resume full service on May 24th. I want to thank our customers for their patience these last few months. I know it hasn't been easy without the critical rail service that both ACRL and the Dinky provide. The decision to temporarily suspend the service on these lines was not made lightly. We know that there, for a number of people, it's the primary source of frustration that our customers had was the uncertainty of when the lines were going to reopen and be operating again. The FRA recently gave us their formal approval of the alternative schedule for positive train control, officially signing off on our plan to reach full implementation before the end of 2020. When we received that approval, that raised our level of confidence to a point that we felt comfortable in providing a date certain. One of the things I did not want to do was to restore service only to have to pull it back or find that we could not operate it reliably. May 24th restores service in time for the Memorial Day weekend and for the summer tourism season. From our time listening to our Atlantic City rail line customers, we heard requests to have some of the alternate bus service stopped at the rail terminal instead of just the bus terminal. Based on the feedback from customers, we've adjusted the 551 and 340 bus routes to also provide stops at the AC rail terminal. That enhancement with all the alternative transportation options will remain in effect with Atlantic City and Princeton customers through May 24th. Again, I'd like to thank all our customers for their patience and understanding. In addition to the Atlantic City and Cherry Hill, we've had a number of listening forums that I, along with our chair and senior New Jersey Transit management staff, have been listening to customers throughout the state. I know a number of you actually were there at some just last week. Customer forums have been held in Princeton, Westfield, Somerville, and Morris Township, and we have found them to be very valuable. It is so important to hear firsthand from customers about their experience with NJ Transit. And we use that feedback to make improvements as the customer experiences whenever possible, as demonstrated by the revision we made to the 551 and 340 bus routes now serving the Atlantic City terminal. Last Thursday, regarding the Hudson Bergen Light Rail public hearings, last Thursday we held 2 public hearings on the proposed temporary suspension of Hudson Bergen Light Rail service along the West Side Avenue branch. We'll be taking these comments into consideration as we continue to work with Jersey City MUA to minimize the disruption to the greatest extent possible. The Jersey City MUA work will require us to decommission a section of track between Liberty State Park and West Side Avenue on or about June 1st to allow for needed repairs to the underground sewer main that runs underneath our tracks. The temporary suspension of service at West Side Avenue, Martin Luther King Drive, and Garfield Avenue stations is expected to last approximately 9 months. During that time, substitute bus service will be provided, and we will communicate further details with our customers once our plans are finalized. Along in the same neighborhood in Hoboken, we are now moving ahead with Hoboken repairs at the Hoboken terminal. We'll also begin to see some construction work as we make significant repairs to the canopy and roof above Track 5. This month, early action work will take place to set the stage for later repairs beginning in April. The project is expected to take about a year, and during that time, a section of the pedestrian walkway between Tracks 3 and 7 will be temporarily restricted. We will have plenty of signs posted to direct customers to the alternate pedestrian paths through the terminal. At this time, we do not expect those repairs to impact any rail or bus service at Hoboken Terminal. On a positive note, on February 21st, we cut the ribbon on our new and modernized bus control facility in Camden. Bus Control South, as we call it, is a state-of-the-art facility. Its predecessor was filled with antiquated 30-year-old plus radios and equipment that had all been replaced with industry-leading technology. The control center now has a computer-aided dispatch system integrated with a Tetra digital radio communication system. That integration is the first of its kind in the nation. Dispatchers will have a range of information at their fingertips, including the exact location of every bus, its speed, and the number of customers on board. We've also added additional dispatchers, consoles, and a video wall for real-time monitoring of traffic, weather, and internal video feeds. All of this is part of our continued effort to improve communications by providing a faster and more efficient flow of information to our customers. Last, I'd like to say that last month marked 1 year since I took the reins as Executive Director of New Jersey Transit, and I must say it's been quite a year. I think we say sometimes it's in dog years. I think it's more than one. Whether that's 7 dog years, but I must say that seriously, I am proud of what our team here has been able to accomplish after years of being underinvested and really, frankly, inattention and even neglect. One of the highlights I would say was finalizing our agreement with Amtrak is a recent example of how we're turning the tide at New Jersey Transit. The agreement, as many are aware, there was a very hostile relationship with Amtrak, and the agreement now puts all that behind us. It will yield benefits to our customers at Penn Station, New York, and allow critical projects like County Yard, that you'll hear more about tonight, on some board items, and the Elizabeth Station reconstruction projects to finally advance. Not only was the agreement with Amtrak left to wither, but so too was positive train control looking back, something I think Diane and I often would like to forget about. But we got back moving in the right direction at full speed. I think, as you've heard many times, we came in, it was 12% completed for the installation of PTC, the 2018 year-end milestone, which we were able to meet. And along the lines of other accomplishments, last month we completed the early construction work on the Portal North Bridge on time and on budget. We now eagerly await USDOT's approval of the funding application to maintain forward progress on this vital project. I would stress again, we were in Washington yesterday with our delegation and leaders from both New York, New Jersey, and Port Authority and Amtrak, and certainly Gateway Project is a critical national project, but Portal Bridge is 100% design. We have all permits, the record of decision. We have Governor Murphy, as I think everyone knows, raised the share. The White House said they wanted to see more skin in the game. We doubled down from $300 million to $600 million, backed by TTF revenues from the gas tax. So we have put everything and more to make this project go ahead, and we are waiting for Washington to respond for money. Unlike the president's budget, the money for Portal is actually already been appropriated and is being is sitting in funds in Washington. So we are hoping to at least break that loose. So that is we've had a lot of progress in the last year on that front. I'd like to say internal business operations is something that a lot of people don't see, but I think really deserves highlight. For a lot of the staff in the back have done a phenomenal job as we've started to rebuild the agency. On the HR side, we've have an approach to aggressively bring in new talent and retain talent. This approach has yielded an impressive 1,022 new hires and 277 promotions in my first year. We hired more than 100 new locomotive engineer trainees and now have a record-setting 6 training courses ongoing concurrently. In the last year, nearly 400 new bus operators are on the streets serving our customers. Overall, in 2018, we awarded over $308 million in contracts in our capital programs and projects, compared to $85 million in 2017. On the finance side, since June 2018, actually when I first came in, we did not have an aged AP at all, so we don't really know how much we owed more than 90 days before we actually started installing those kind of controls. But as of when we started in measuring that in June, we achieved a 95% reduction in invoices outstanding more than 120 days, from $15.2 million to $750,000. And the invoice reduction from past invoices greater than $45 days to our vendors, reduced from $28.5 million to $4.5 million. That certainly makes us a company that vendors feel comfortable doing business with. So I think that's part of restoring our reputation. It's not something that makes headline, but something that is very important to our business. So I think as we look across the agency, we're certainly worked hard to improve our communications to our customers. A lot of things we do well inside are not getting out, and I think together with the push notices and notifications that you've now been seeing out on our app, it's just generally try to improve our communications, and I think you'll look forward to seeing more in that regard. I think a couple other things I'd like to just point out. We have a couple of new hires I'd like to point out that have come on board and reflects the kind of quality of management that we look to have. We have Lukman Faisal in the back, who has come on as our CIO, has a long experience with IT and turning around organizations with challenges such as ours. And also is Rich Schaefer still here? He was here earlier. Has just come over from HNTB, a senior structural engineer with a long history, distinguished history, particularly in New Jersey, and on bridge structures, is coming in as our chief engineer. So those are the kind of caliber of hires that you've seen. On top of those ones that you've seen recently, Ray Kenny, with 40 years of experience coming over from Long Island Railroad and other projects, to be head of rail ops for our division. And I would stress that it has been done so in a way that really encourages a collaborative atmosphere with the existing staff. We have a lot of wonderful staff who have been underserved and shortchanged, and we're really feel that this is putting the right team together to deliver the trust that our riders and their fares and the legislators put in giving us money. We want to make sure that it is wisely spent and competently managed. So with that, hopefully the first year is a step in the right direction, and look forward to delivering more in the coming year.
Thanks, Kevin. Joyce, are there any comments from the public?
Yes, we have 7 speakers and also a group of 9 speakers on behalf of Mr. Grady. Speakers, in order to give everyone an opportunity to be heard, comments will be limited to 5 minutes. And as is our protocol, when there are several people speaking on the same topic, 2 speakers will have 5 minutes to provide comments, and all other speakers will have 2 minutes to provide comments. At this time, I am very pleased to introduce our first speaker, the Honorable Senator Loretta Weinberg.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Commissioners. Good evening to the members of the public who are here and the members of the press, and I guess Mr. G's fan club, as I read the orange T-shirts there. I came to wish you all a happy birthday on your first year and having survived, Kevin. That's already an achievement. But I heard you talk about sorry about that. I heard you talk about our patient customers, commuters, and I think I hear from all of those who are not so patient. And I know where you're starting from. It has been an agency that has been under-resourced, not properly staffed, with a lot of problems. So we have no place to go but up, but we have to move up a little more quickly than we've done. Following the fatal Hoboken rail crash, I served on the Joint Assembly Committee with the Senate that investigated the various problems that confronted New Jersey Transit after years of neglect under the prior administration. Those range from low ratings for safety and on-time performance, a shortage of engineers, mechanics, and other skilled workers, inexcusable patronage, a long history of racial and sexual discrimination. When I think of how many millions of dollars were paid out in settlements for racial and sexual discrimination, it's heartbreaking. But with the new administration, I am hopeful that progress is being made on a lot of issues, particularly on meeting the federal goals for positive train control, although at a high cost for many of our commuters. But I and my colleagues in the legislature have serious concerns and questions about where New Jersey Transit is going and whether it really has the funding and long-term game plan it needs to return to preeminence as one of the nation's top-performing transit agencies. First, both Senate President Sweeney and I have questioned whether a $25 million increase in the operation of a $2.5 billion agency, which equals really to about a 1% increase, is adequate to even continue service at current levels, much less improve service for your hundreds of thousands of daily bus and rail commuters. Is it true that New Jersey Transit union contracts alone are going to increase costs next year by $50 million? Other costs are also going up, including your contracts for light rail and with private bus carriers. Plus, you're supposed to provide rail service from Secaucus to the new American Dream Complex and restore service on the Atlantic City line. Presumably, we have been hurt by a loss of fares of revenue due to all the cancellations and the fare discounts provided during the positive train control. So what do you believe you really need to provide the quality service our commuters have a right to expect? And I want you to know that we in the legislature are willing to work with Governor Murphy, with his administration, and with you to try to get closer to what I think you need as really adequate funding to start getting, coin a phrase, back on track. Our review of your March 6th financial reports shows $33 million scheduled to be allocated to environmental work for the final environmental impact approvals for the Bergen Hudson light rail, a project that, next to the bus terminal, is very close to my heart. So are there approvals as we get approvals for this project, is money earmarked in the capital plan in future years to actually build it? It's always been known as the Hudson Bergen light rail, but it's never come to Bergen County. With $460 million in capital to operating transfers from the Transportation Trust Fund, still going to an operationalized maintenance to keep the buses and trains we have running, will we have money to build the Hudson Bergen light rail? And this brings us to customer service. We passed on a New Jersey Transit Reform Bill in December, and the governor signed it, and I'm looking forward to seeing a new and broad-based, enlarged board of directors for New Jersey Transit. But what is being done about filling the post of the customer advocate? That was a very important part of our legislation. That was one of the central recommendations of the governor's audit and was authorized in new law. I am not sure whether you have selected anybody or whether or not there is a plan to do that. Finally, two particular areas of concern for bus commuters. And I hear this regularly. Unfortunately, I am pretty high-tech for my age. I surprise myself. I'm on Twitter and Facebook. And I do it myself, by the way, not my staff. So you very often get stories about my grandchildren in between stories about bunching of buses from New Jersey Transit. Bus riders in my district often express concern about so-called bus bunching, or full buses being shortly followed by 1 or 2 empty buses. As the first bus falls behind the schedule, ever more passengers try to crowd on each stop, with subsequent buses eventually catching up and running empty behind the first bus. The increased wait times for riders lead to overcrowding and makes our system less efficient. In 2017, Michael Slack, then NJT's Chief Information Officer, spoke publicly about improving fare collection technology in 2019. In particular, he brought up something called tap and go cards, which riders of the PATH and MTA would already be familiar with. Instead of fumbling around with paper tickets, prepaid refillable cards would allow riders to enter the bus and pay their fares with no delay. So I would, when you get an opportunity, appreciate an update on what's happening there. This would likely lead to shorter wait times at stops, reduced paper waste, and a higher fare collection rate. And efficiencies like this would reduce bunching incidents as well. Is New Jersey Transit working on any technological improvements to either fare collections or bus scheduling? And is tap and go something that you are looking to implement in the coming fiscal year? I have a lot of questions, as you can see. And I suspect that you might get used to seeing me every so often here. This is not a threat, just a statement, like the Port Authority has gotten used to over the years. I know that together with Governor Murphy, and I have spoken to members of his administration, we can start moving New Jersey Transit back to the premier agency it once was. We owe this to our commuters and continue to see improvements in their quality of life. I know I don't have to tell you this, but our transportation is the center of the economic engine in the state of New Jersey. But I add to that, it has such a profound effect on the quality of life of the people who live here. The people have to get on those buses, get on those trains, wait on all those corners, get to work, make a living, and try to get home to their families. So thank you for all the work you do. Thank you for the evening meetings. A little bit difficult to get that into the legislation, but we appreciate it. And I look forward to working with you collaboratively in the future. And happy birthday to you, Kevin.
Thank you. Thank you.
Senator, thank you very much for your remarks tonight. And you have the commitment of the board as well as the staff of New Jersey Transit to not only work with you, but answer the questions you've presented to us tonight. Thank you.
The next speaker is Bruce Bergen.
Madam Chair, board members, executive director, good evening. My name is Bruce Bergen. I am the chairman of the Raritan Valley Rail Coalition. First of all, I want to start by thanking you for your visits to Westfield and Somerville on our line, and I was able to attend the Westfield meeting. And I know that our riders didn't hear what they wanted to hear at that meeting, but I think nonetheless it's important that you came out, you're communicating with the riders and listening to the riders so they have an opportunity to speak to you. In that regard, I want to invite the public and the board and your employees to a public meeting that the Raritan Valley Rail Coalition is having on March 26th at the Cranford Community Center at 7 p.m. And that night we're going to be featuring Jerry Zarrow, who I'm sure you know is chairman of the Gateway Development Corporation, who we're hoping will be able to update our riders and the general public about the current status of that project. And in that regard, I do want to thank you for including that project as one of the 5 points in your business plan in your proposed budget. But as important as that project is to the long term, what our riders really care about, as you know, is the reinstatement and expansion of the one-seat ride. And I understand from a recent press release, I think it was, that the holdup on the Raritan Valley line has to do with Amtrak and some work that they're planning, as well as a lack of engineers. And I understand that those are not things that are necessarily in your control, though, as I did last month, I want to thank you for being proactive in getting more engineers in the pipeline. The problem I see in reading what I see in the newspaper is that you're talking about those classes ending in October and November, which makes me fear that we're looking at a reinstatement date somewhere towards the end of this year, which obviously would be almost a year later than was originally anticipated, and would be, I think, a rather large disappointment to our riders. Nonetheless, again, we may not like what you're telling us, but I think it's important that you come out and get ahead of this and tell our riders, well, we can't give you a date now because we're waiting on this, but hopefully by July 1st, August 1st, I don't know, whatever the date would be, we hope to have a target date at that time so that our riders at least know that this is not going on forever, that at some point we will, in fact, have a target date to reinstate the one-seat ride, and then hopefully we can continue our talks of expanding it. As I said earlier, I think it's never a bad thing for there to be communication. So I urge you to, as much as you can, keep the public informed of where we're going and how quickly we might get there. I do want to make one suggestion in the meanwhile, and it's only a temporary fix, but as you've probably heard before, when our riders don't have a one-seat ride and they get to Newark and they have to change platforms to get to a New York train, that's a major problem. We've talked about it before, but I'm hoping you can focus on, at least for the temporary time, as many as the Raritan Valley Line trains as possible come to Newark. If the New York train could be on the same platform, that would be a major improvement, at least in the short run. So I hope that your staff could take a look at that. Once again, I thank you for everything you've done, and I look forward to continuing to work with you as we move ahead.
Thank you. The next speaker is Murray Bowden.
Kevin, congratulations on moving New Jersey Transit forward in the new electronic age. I think you're doing a good job. One thing I'd like you to look at is something that confuses me and other older drivers. At railroad crossings, there are both the flashing red lights and traffic lights. It's confusing. Traffic lights we're used to. So if you could eliminate those flashing red lights and just use traffic lights, it would be helpful to me. And if you really wanted to enforce it, put a camera behind us. We don't want to get tickets like that because I've already gotten one. But congratulations on your first year. I look forward to the second year.
Thank you. The next speaker is Sally Geller.
Good evening. Sally Gellert. I'm the communications for the director for the Lackawanna Coalition, but I'm speaking on my own behalf tonight. So hello again. I was pleased to attend the M&E public hearing in Morris Township on Monday. Have some thoughts based on the comments there. First of all, thank you for the thoughtful and courteous responses. Having a two-way discussion is always preferable to making comments to a board that can't reply given a meeting structure. It's particularly frustrating to wait through executive sessions before the public portion of the meeting, especially when train and bus service in certain destinations dictate an early curfew. For instance, last month I went back to my parents' house in Paramus, and though I got an 8:30 number 76 bus to Hackensack, I could not find a connection with the 168. So I took the 780 to the Garden State Plaza and one of the private van shuttles to Spring Valley Road on Route 4. From there, I walked at least a mile and a half, not always with sidewalks, including across an overpass that was really a bit scary. If New Jersey Transit phone service had been available even when I left here at 8:30, I would have known that there was a later 168, even if I had to wait an hour for it, which would have dropped me off about maybe half a mile from my parents' house through the little suburban streets. Instead, the security agent told me about the 946 bus, which ended its run in Hackensack, not continuing to Paramus. It's not her responsibility to be an information agent, particularly as the 168 stops around the corner from the station, not at the station. But without Wi-Fi at the station, I was left out in the cold and dark. Regarding Monday evening, two subjects rise to my attention. First, you confirmed the continuation of senior fares, which is certainly good news. Many of us rely on such fares, particularly when we live on fixed budgets after retirement. In addition, I suggest you consider restoring a discount that disappeared in 2010, off-peak fares for all. Although it sounds as though it would be a loss, I believe that as congestion increases on our highways, as more and more people care about climate change and greenhouse gases, and want to take action to mitigate those, encouraging riders to travel off-peak will help even the load, cut down the peak congestion on the trains, and may even get folks who are not currently rail riders to experiment and ultimately become regular riders. The trains are running anyway, though we would like to see them more frequent, especially on my Pascack Valley line, but the more seats that are filled, the better. Al Papp of New Jersey ARP mentioned on Monday a former practice of New Jersey Transit of executive meetings with advocates on a regular basis. I'd like to endorse and clarify that suggestion. To my understanding, I don't believe Al was suggesting a series of individual meetings with grassroots advocacy groups one at a time, but instead a scheduled regular basis, maybe quarterly or semi-annually, a few hours for a roundtable with multiple advocacy groups. Not necessarily the industry groups with whom you're likely to interact more often, but groups like NJR, Lackawanna Coalition, that are made up of regular riders who generally do not have a way to connect with you other than perhaps at a board meeting. It would be helpful to, especially given that while we do have expanded members on the board, they're not required, none of them are required to be transit dependent, and this would be a way to hear that voice on a regular basis. That we could have a discussion as we did on Monday night, and hopefully we could, having such meetings, advance a mutual goal of better transit, mutual understanding. And I'm encouraged by the large turnout of Mr. Grady's supporters, crossing my fingers that something good is in the works, like a substantial order being discussed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Chris Neidenberg.
Yes, thank you. I just came here briefly to mention something that really bothered me. Going back to around the early September, I have been looking for a position that would give me a steadier income, working maybe, and I have a prior background in customer service, phone-based customer service. So I received a call, about possibly coming in to interview for a customer service call center position with the Access Link specialized transportation service for the disabled. So I was told that the offices may even be in this building, I don't know, is in downtown Newark. So I said, what do I have to do to perhaps interview for this position? And they told me I have to go out to Whippany, And Whippany, as you all know, and doesn't have great bus options or rail options out there, and I have no idea why you would have a contractual relationship with a personnel agency that has a position open in downtown Newark to require you to go out to Whippany, and I am not in a position right now where I can afford a car. And it sounded like at least I could have gotten my face out there, I could have been considered, and I just don't understand why that's required. If you're going to have a position here in Newark, I would think there should be a convenient option for people, let's say, in Essex and, the lower part of Passaic County to come here and it would take me maybe 30 minutes to come to here by bus and subway, maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes, to interview for that position. But the woman told me, no, the only thing I can do, she said, a lot of people that are interested that don't have vehicles Uber it from the Morristown train station to Whippany. So I said, what kind of contradiction is this? That a public mass transit agency would hire an employment agency that would only allow you to get to an area where you have to take a car. Pretty much. I later found there's one bus that goes somewhere near this agency is on Route 10 in Whippany. Okay, I later found there was a bus that goes out somewhere near Route 10 in Whippany. The number is in the 70s, I believe. They come either from East Orange or Newark, but they only run maybe twice a day. So you have to wait. If you go to interview, if you can walk, I don't know how close it would be, you'd have to wait 2 hours to return. So I don't understand why you can't, for positions that are here in Newark, and if they're this building, why you mandate that people have to go out to Morris County. Now, let me make clear, obviously drivers certainly are entitled to interview for these positions, but drivers in Morris County have access. They can take their cars into Newark, okay, at, let's say, Route 287. Drivers in Somerset County, the affluent people, they can come from Route 78 here. So I would just ask you to look into this contractual relationship, and that if you're going to advertise openings, okay, for positions in Newark, realize that not everybody has a car, has the affluence under the current circumstances to get a car, to drive out to Morris County to interview for a job. So after I also sent an email to Governor Murphy's website and heard nothing. Well, I wasn't shocked with that, but I voiced my concerns. So I would just ask you to look to maybe if you're going to have positions in facilities in areas that this has to be one of the highest mass transit areas in New Jersey, that, you make it easy for people that don't have that might like to be a part of your agency and to use their skills to help your agency, to give them an easier option to come to interview for a position at New Jersey Transit in Newark. So that's basically it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is David Peter Allen.
Good evening. David Peter Allen, Chair of the Lackawanna Coalition. I will begin by announcing that next month our organization will celebrate 40 years of service to the rail riders of our region. Over the years, we have gone beyond our original purview of the Morris and Essex, Gladstone, and Montclair branches to the entire Montclair-Boonton line and now to all connecting transportation. So today our purview includes all of North and Central Jersey. That means at our regular meeting on Monday evening, April 22nd, we will celebrate our anniversary. And we hope that you can come to Millburn Town Hall that evening and celebrate with us. I know that there are many items on today's agenda, not the least of which is the operating budget for the next fiscal year. I also know that the executive session takes place before public comments, a practice to which we strongly objected when it was done in the past. Accordingly, there is no good reason to comment on agenda items unless the sole purpose is to place an objection on the record, because there is nothing we can do about any of this. But I will make one exception and say that I am delighted to hear Senator Weinberg expressing her concerns about the minuscule 0.7% increase in New Jersey Transit's operating budget. I said similar things to the reporters, and they interviewed me about it, and I'm glad to hear a legislator of such long standing saying the same thing. Maybe it will make a difference. I hope you can, Senator. Great. So instead of commenting otherwise on decisions that have already been made, I will report on recent activities that do pertain to New Jersey Transit. Last Monday, I was invited to make a statement before the Assembly Transportation Committee on mobility for seniors and persons with disabilities. Although the subject matter is normally associated with the Senior Citizens and Disabled Residents Transportation Advisory Committee, SCATTERTAC, of which I am the longest serving member, I spoke for the Lackawanna Coalition instead. The coalition is aware of these constituencies who need transit and who need community transportation, and we are in accord with the need to properly fund and execute transportation strategies that will serve these vulnerable communities efficiently and effectively. This means more coordination, more regular transit that many seniors and persons with disabilities can use, and generally broader public transportation network that also features more frequent service than we have on many routes today. The past policy of cutting mobility to save money creates a tremendous disadvantage to people who need mobility the most. As I told the Assembly members, you are sitting on a time bomb. The population of seniors and persons with disabilities, those populations are increasing, and so are the number of persons who depend on transit, and that's for other reasons too. These people need to be served, and it is your job to plan to serve them in the future, to serve those people who need your services. We are here to help you, but you must plan now, and that means the sooner the better, before it is too late. Later on Monday evening, I attended a hearing in Morris Township about our rail service. It was held in Morris Township Hall, about 1.5 miles from the convent station, a difficult walk, and there were no buses. In short, it was not accessible by transit. Holding a transit-oriented meeting with no transit access is unconscionable and unacceptable. And we must have your official assurance that nothing like that will happen again. Fortunately, through our efforts, mine especially, Morris Township stepped up to the plate and provided the town van to bring me and other transit-dependent riders, and they're sitting right there behind me, to the hearing. We thank Deputy Mayor Catherine Wilson, Town Administrator Timothy Quinn, and Robert Drucker, the town representative on the Lackawanna Coalition, for making this happen, and we appreciate the participation of Assembly members Nancy Munoz and Anthony Bucco. At the hearing, Commissioner Gutierrez-Scacchetti and Executive Director Corbett interacted the most with attendees and were the most forthright that I have ever seen either of them be. I certainly commend this attitude and action, and I thank you for it, because we, the riders, want to know what is happening on our railroad and other transit, and we have a right to know. This certainly is better than the silence we have usually encountered up to now. Unfortunately, the most important question I had was answered only indirectly. We want to know when we will get our trains back. And it's not just the Morris and Essex. It's the Raritan one-seat ride trains, Gladstone on weekends, Montclair, and elsewhere too. As we feared, it was the shortage of engineers that is now causing the problem. We have been waiting for senior management to acknowledge this fact, and thank you for finally doing it. However, it appears that there are many more engineers needed, and we must wait for another year before we get anything that resembles the schedule we had a year ago, and without all the annulments that have compromised our mobility lately. At least we know the answer after a fashion, and it is now time for management to come up with a solution to this mobility deficit and become forthright about keeping us informed concerning it.
Thank you. The next speaker is Tim Sevener.
Hello, I'm Tim Sevener from the Transit Village of Mount Tabor, and I'm here this time. Last time I came representing New Jersey Association of Rail Passengers to promote rail with trails, and now I can say the New Jersey Sierra Club Executive Committee unanimously endorsed that idea. We cannot just pave over our rails and to just make them bikeways. So me and Bill Bergen, the head of the Sierra Club Transportation Committee, we surveyed the line, the Northern Railroad that goes from Englewood to Northvale to the New York State line, all 7 miles. What we found was there was at least 40 feet for the whole pathway. I also surveyed, Kevin goes by this every day, or whenever he goes to Newark on the Morris line, the tractor line that goes from Morristown to Convent Station is 13 feet wide. The total of the 2 tracks plus that bike and walking trail, which gets a lot of service. There's the Drew University, Fairleigh Dickinson, College of St. Elizabeth's, with a lot of transit-dependent, non-car owning students, and it's plenty adequate to supply the need for bikes and walkways 13 feet. The Northern Valley Greenway proposed, actually, I went to the meeting last week for that actually, for much of it, is actually 60 feet, although me and Bill Bergen found there were places where it was restricted to 30 to 40 feet wide. So what we're saying is we have to really make sure we preserve these rail rights of way so that the rail can continue from Englewood up to Demarest, up to Gloucester, up to Northdale, and potentially all the way to Piermont. This was on the chart I gave you the last month, the Vision 2020 document that Jeff Warsh had a study team put together in 2001, 19 years ago. We're finally making progress on that. The other thing what I discovered in getting ready for this survey and talking to the Sierra Club is the abomination that under former Governor Christie, there was not a single, not one, in 8 years of those rail projects proposed that have been on the board that was finished. Not one. I had thought the Meadowlands Rail was actually finished, but it was actually finished in the lame duck session 2009 by Governor Corzine. So what has happened is, because we've just let these rail rights of way do nothing, even though, as you know, Kevin, the RPA, the Rethink NYC, a lot of groups are saying, look, what we have to do now is we can't have 10 100-story apartment buildings in expensive New York real estate. What we have to do is think of the whole region and have like 110 stories, transit-oriented development, walkable, mixed-use communities with bicycles, rail, trails is fine if you go on the light rail. That's what we need to do. And in order to do that, we are blessed in this state. Unlike California, we have these rail rights of way. We have to start using them. Another point, to Chris Nortimer's point about Newark, did you realize the #1 car-free city in the United States, we would all guess, New York City. You know who's #2? Newark. #3, Jersey City. This state is already, we are poised, I've been saying this a long time, we need to become the green transit leader in the United States. And that it's eminently doable. Let's see, was that, I had another point, now I forgot it. but anyway, so that's it. Getting to Whippany. Okay, also on the Jeff Warsh plan is the rails that go, they run the Easter Bunny trains on it today that goes from Morristown to Roseland. Get those going. I have surveyed that too. There's a stub line that goes, part goes to Roseland, part goes within Morris County from Morristown to East Hanover, where you have the Funplex, Novartis, it goes by the Bear headquarters. There's already apartment buildings that are growing on Route 10. Morris County has commissioned a study because the traffic on Route 10 from Morristown to East Hanover, and that section is horrible. And they're talking about widening the road or just, no, we have a rail right there. Let's put it to use. Okay, thank you. Thanks for your good work. I see you actually listening to people and having all these meetings. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you. Next, we have a group of 9 speakers on behalf of Mr. Grady. The group has elected to have the first and last speaker provide comments for 5 minutes. All other speakers will provide comments for 2 minutes. The first speaker is Errol Kerr.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the panel. Good evening. I must say that I would rather be here this evening addressing some of the germane issues that some of your speakers came up here with this evening. But unfortunately, my mission here is to talk about something other than those things that affect the day-to-day ridership of the New Jersey Transit. Instead, I'm here this evening to address a problem of injustice. This is a situation that we've been dealing with for the last 2 years. We've been coming every month to address this issue. Now, clearly, this is an unforced problem with the New Jersey Transit. This is not something that should have been done but it is something that New Jersey Transit in its operation found necessary to do at the time. I'm not blaming this board because there were many boards since the problem came to life. And it is now left up to this board to take care of the rail issue. Now, as I've said many times before, this board has the power to make the necessary changes to fix the problems that was placed upon this board. My problem this evening is asking for something that I should not be here asking for, and that is justice for Mr. Grady. Should not be. One of the things that, kind of get to my spirit since I've been coming here, it's a whole business of how justice is adjudicated in this system. Now, I know that all of us, over the past couple of weeks, were glued to our television sets and our newspapers and the other sources of information that we use, listening to the result of the verdict imposed on Mr. Manafort. Now, I draw this and I want to make a comparison between what was decided there and what we are faced here with. The judge in his summation of Mr. Manafort made a very interesting comment that this man was blameless except for what he did. And he threw out the guidelines for sentencing because he said it was too harsh. Now, listen to that. It was too harsh. Now, let me introduce Mr. Grady's situation in the same way. Here's a man who followed every rule that was laid out before him. He paid his rent. He never tear the building down. Everything that was asked of him, he did. And yet he was railroaded out of his business by the New Jersey Transit. Time for him to get some justice. 2004 to now, 15 years, and he still cannot see the light at the other end of the tunnel. What kind of justice is that? What kind of justice is that? We are not here begging for New Jersey Transit to give him any special favor. No, this is something that he's entitled to. He's entitled to it, like any one of you or any one of us. So we are not going to get weary in well-doing. We're going to be here. And we are very happy that New Jersey Transit is having some discussion. We just hope that at the end of the discussions, Mr. Grady will be given some sense of justice. Some sense of justice, because you have already tore his life up. He cannot be made whole. But give him some sense of justice. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Donna Ivy.
Good evening, Board, and congratulations, Mr. Corbett. 1 year anniversary in a senior management position is not an easy task, so I congratulate you. And good evening, my name is Donna Ivy, and as you know, I am here advocating on behalf of making Mr. G whole. We know that he spent a lot of money, he lost a lot of money, and he was forced out of his restaurant at New Jersey Transit. here in Trenton. So I understand from conversations with Mr. G that there is communication going on, and that's a good thing. And that is my prayer, that that we all can come together, we can resolve this issue, and we can make him whole again. He's worked hard, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and he's deserving of being reimbursed or just made whole, you know, in terms of all of the time, effort, and money that he has spent. It's only fair. It's only the fair thing to do. But I do have to say, the one senator, the one elected official that I have adored all my life sits here in this audience. And I met her when I moved back home from Massachusetts to New Jersey. And I went to her office, and she welcomed me with open arms. And so I'm glad she's here, and I'm glad she's listening to this, because in all fairness, the more folks that we have understanding what's going on in Mr. G's life, the better we will all be. So I thank you, and thank you, Senator.
Thank you. The next speaker is Princess Reeves.
Good evening to the Executive Board. I'd like to wish you a very good evening. I'd like to start off by saying that as we are always here with our icon of the evening, the icon of a complete township with opened his doors to just about everybody. And I think I have gave you the complete history of everyone that he has given his time and service to. We have a group of young people and younger, if I may say it that way. But we, even though we had been here time and time after again, explaining detail after detail, providing you the history and the information on all of the litigation that has been put before the new board. And I know this is a challenging moment that you have to come up with a righteous decision as to trying to make a wrong a right. So that's what we're here this evening. We're just letting you know that we have been given the information that you're speaking to Mr. G, Mr. Grady. I know I call him Mr. G, but I believe a little of all of us, we call him that. He is such an honest and hard working gentleman. So I want you to take this gentleman here that is before you this evening and kind of like make him your membership of one of your immediate family, because that's who he is. He's a family man. He's a hard working family man. So I'm here yet again, yes, as to say, please, let's make a wrong a right. Let's bring honest and justice to Mr. G, a man that's worthy of every cause. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Winnie Harrison.
Good evening, Madam Clerk and everyone that's in the building. In regards to Mr. G, we pray that your eyes are awoken to his situation, and that at this time we actually pray that a resolution will be done according to that $600 million that New Jersey Transit received, that Mr. G shall receive his just reward. He has been diligently providing for not only the city of Patterson, but for all those in his family. He has lost much. And I pray that y'all will open up your eyes and even look in the mirror and say, what if this was me? What would I do? What would I want them to do? And just do the right thing. And it's so easy said than done, but if it's there to be resolved, Let it be resolved expeditiously. Let it be done according to the law, and let it be done according to the will that you're supposed to have as members of the board. It's not your fault. We understand that. But it came down from before y'all have got here and several other panels that have been here. So we just asking you to please let it be resolved. It's not as simple as it said, but it could be done if you come together and get it out the way. I thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jamie Bland.
Good evening, New Jersey Transit Committee. I come here today. I have been very overwhelmed with the amount of times that we have came here and we spoke to you guys, and I think by now you should have a better understanding on what you need to do. However, I still can't get over the fact that Mr. G, an A-list businessman, opened up his business, paid all his bills, did everything he had to do as far as the RFP was concerned, won the bid, was railroaded out of his place of business, and then had to pay 2 consecutive years without occupying the space. I still can't understand that. Now, I know he's been humiliated, him and his family, because I have lost sleep behind just trying to digest that. So what I want you to do is go back to your files and take your time, page by page, because he gave you guys enough information to make a decision based on the humility that this man has been through. Not the money that he spent, but the years of trying to make sure that he saves his name, his credit. And everybody here knows how hard that is. However, he stood up to keep his pride and dignity. Now it's your turn to bring justice for Mr. G. In other words, do what's right by God. God sits high and he looks low. Don't you forget that.
Thank you. The next speaker is May Bradley.
Good evening, board. There's an adage that says what you do speaks loud, what you do speaks louder than what you say. I want to say personally this. Frankly, I am appalled by what has happened with Mr. G. He's an iconic New Jerseyan, a stellar community person. But I'm very, very appalled that he will be treated like that as a military vet. Did you know that he's a military veteran? When you go in your discussion about how to treat Mr. Grady, I want you to be fair and I want you to be just. This is what we all want. This is what Mr. Grady wants. I do not want you to say it's not in our budget. Because Mr. Grady has been coming down here a long time. As of December 2017, I was at a loss to understand why you did not, by this time, settle with Mr. Grady, because it was reported in December 2017 that you New Jersey Transit was leasing an unoccupied building for $4.4 million. You were not using that building, a non-use of that building, but yet you said in your budget you could not reimburse Mr. Grady. So when you go in your discussion, do fairness, do justice for Mr. Grady. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Kay Banks.
Good evening, Madam Chair, and to the Executive Board, and to all those assembled. My name is Dr. Kay Banks, and I'm here on behalf of Mr. Grady. We're not here this evening as a march, and we're not here in a rally. We're here in support of a friend, a brother, a confidant, a mentor, a community valor, one who stands with integrity wherever he goes. There's nothing bad, no matter where you go, that can be said about Mr. Grady. And we came out this evening in support of him, not because it was a ritual. We came out because it's our civic duty. When one is hurt, we all hurt together. And when we feel that one is taken advantage of, we stand strong. We stand firm. And I'm admonished, as the word says, that when Nehemiah was up on the wall, he was about a good work. Nehemiah was not distracted by what was going on. No matter who came around, no matter who had the opportunity to come to try to bring him down, he didn't come down. He didn't look at their faces. He didn't look at what they were doing. He didn't look at their positions, and he didn't look at what they stood for, because he knew what the Word of God said, that he was up on a wall about a good work. And that's the way Mr. Grady is. He's up on the wall, and he's not being distracted by what you may look at on paper, or what you may have looked on as the past, or what someone may have told you. Look to where we are now. Look to what you can do now. Examine yourself and do what's right. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Janet McDaniel.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, and director, and of course, this esteemed guests, and especially those who made mention of Mr. G. Wow, what do I say? You've heard it all. We've been coming for a very long time. Since we've been coming, some of our members have experienced very serious illnesses. Some of us have had losses in our lives. Some of us have lost jobs. Some of us have continued on jobs. Some of us, myself, Deputy Mayor of the City of Paterson, chose to be here with Mr. G instead of going to my mayor's birthday party. Why do we do that? Because we feel that justice has not been served. Last month, 28 days ago, I spoke to you about the fierce urgency of now. I quoted Dr. Martin Luther King. And he talked about how important it is to act. You know, there was a movie or a play called A Raisin in the Sun. Many of you have probably heard about that. And Lorraine Hainsberg asked the question, what happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up and shrivel like a raisin in the sun? Ask yourselves, How long is too long? How long is too long? It has been too long. We ask you to look in the mirror and do the right thing. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Russell Grady.
Good afternoon, Board, Mr. Corbett. I'm always pleased to be in the room with Senator Weinberg. Hats off to you. Mr. Corbett, who has been with this outfit for a year. Look like you have the transit on the right course. But I have to brag about something. I have you in seniority. I've been coming out here for 2 years. But I do believe we'll come into an end of this. I want to take my hats off to all the people that support me. That the senator said Mr. G's fan club. It is a fan club, but it's much more than a fan club. These are African Americans who have families, who have children. Some of them have spent their retirement money, mortgaged their homes, and send their children to school. And hopefully, when they go qualify themselves, they have an equal opportunity to get a job, to get a contract, to get a lease with companies like New Jersey Transit and New Jersey Transit. They're concerned about that. They're concerned beyond speaking to you about justice for Mr. G. Many of them who speak don't understand as well as you do. You know the numbers. And we've been coming down here for 2 years, and you had time to go back and look and see exactly what happened. And when you go back and see the numbers and see what happened to me, how it happened, it's gruesome, unbelievable. The tactics that we use by this public agency to bring down a successful African American business. When they said justice for Mr. G, they're not asking you to give me anything. They're asking you to give what I earned. You went out for an RFP and I went out and outbidded everybody. Matter of fact, I went out twice and outbidded everybody. I recognized that the company didn't want me there, but I had a right to be there. I paid my dues to this country. Somebody mentioned that I was a veteran. Yeah, I was a veteran. And I've been a good person. I pay my taxes. I pay my taxes. I paid my rent 2 years. After you have taken the keys and said, we're going to have you relocated from here to here, we're going to send you invoices to pay your rent for each month while you're out of the restaurant, that you'll be a beautiful restaurant that you went in and destroyed. And you reneged on your promise to put me back. You have numbers from our accountant. I left over $1 million worth of fixed access in your building that you had requested me to do. To cooperate. You're going to move me from here to over here. 24 hours after I gave you my keys, you got permission to take my equipment out, and you're supposed to put it back in 90 to 120 days. 24 hours after there was an agreement to do that, email came down from the Attorney General's office. We don't agree with that agreement. We don't agree with that. Here I am, successful business. 15 full-time employees plus a family standing out in the street. I had to pay my employees the last pay that I gave them standing in the street with no access to the building. But I was getting invoices to pay the rent, and I paid it. Someone said, why did you pay the rent? Simply because I want to live up to my obligation to the company. And I'm insisting that the company live up to its obligation to me. And you haven't done it. I know you wasn't there, but the decision was made. You bear the burden now. You bear the burden. You got numbers. You got numbers from my accountant. You're very smart people. Go back and look at what happened and how it happened, and you know what it cost me. It destroyed my business. It destroyed my family. I had 2 young ladies gone to college, professionals, that we were going to go in business together. You destroyed all of that. So whatever you decide to do is not going to come nowhere near what it cost. Nowhere near. And I can understand that. But when they said justice for Mr. G, they're talking about the kind of numbers that I lost. You just took it away from me and went on about your business. After paying my rent for 2 full years, okay, that was a settlement agreement that you rejected up front. I went to court, and the arbitrators came out and said, listen, he needed at least $1.3 million to go back in and put the restaurant back again. In a transcript, New Jersey Transit representative, you have paid your rent since 2004, and it's now the last 2 months in 2006, another month in 2007. You got to go back and pay all of that. What am I paying for? I don't even have the keys. I can't get to the place. You got to pay those 3 months. And you got to go, and they pointed it out, you got to go back and you got to reconstruct the restaurant. The same quality that we tore down that you put up before. You know it's going to cost at least $1.5 million. We're going to give you $183,000 to go back and do that. What kind of justice is that? When they say justice for Mr. G, this is what we're looking for. Something that's decent, that's tangible, that you owe me, and I earned it. Please, folks. Hope that this night is not the beginning. I hope it's an end to what has been going on. If it's a beginning, I'm going to promise you an interesting 2019. Thank you for your time.
There are no further speakers.
Justice. Justice. When do we want it? Now. When do we want it? Now.
There are no further speakers.
Thank you. We'll move on to reports. We do not have an advisory committee report today. I would call on Board Member Castillo to present the Operations and Customer Service Committee report and the Administration report.
Madam Chair, our committee, the Operations and Customer Service Committee received an update on operations and customer service trends, analysis, and actions for rail, bus, and light rail. The committee also was shown a video of our New Jersey Transit Careers webpage, which is a new way for us to promote careers in transportation here at New Jersey Transit. We also received an update on our social media activities and on Access Link operations. Additionally, the committee received an update on the cost of service for bus, rail, light rail, and Access Link, as well as an update on our Fall 2018 Customer Satisfaction Survey. I'll now move to my Administration Committee report, which included a financial update. That update included our information on our fiscal year and year-over-year operating results, budget to actual comparisons of revenue and expenses, and major operating results. In addition, the committee received an update on headcount, vacancies, and hiring. The update included a review of our major balance sheet items, such as changes in working capital, outstanding debt, and accounts payable. The financial update also included an update on ridership levels and revenue, as well as real estate and economic development highlights. Lastly, our committee received updates regarding human resources and equal employment opportunity and affirmative action. That concludes my reports, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I will present the Capital Planning, Policy, and Privatization Committee report. The committee discussed the board items for the 2018 Capital Planning and Programs Task Order Consultant Contract Program, the New Jersey Transit Resilience Program, Long Slip Fill and Rail Enhancement, New Jersey Transit Resilience Program Amendment to the 2012 Task Order Consultant Contracts Program, adoption of the Ethics Codes, 2-year budget, annual independent audit services, county yard improvement project, acquisition of easements, remediation agreement, and private property acquisitions, and the Portal North Bridge project real estate acquisition. And that concludes the report. At this time, I would ask Kevin Corbett to present our action items.
Thank you, Chair. I would note
just to note, Board Member Castillo is recused from this voting on this item, so she's excusing herself and will be back for item 18, the next item on our agenda.
Thank you, Chair. I would now ask Eric DeLeo, Assistant Executive Director, Capital Planning and Programs, to present Board Item 1903-05 regarding Task Order Consultant Contract Program. Eric?
Thank you, Director. Commissioner, we are recommending approval of Item 1903-05, 2018 Capital Planning and Programs Task Order Consultant Contracts Program, Construction Management, Community Transportation, Vertical Transportation, and Access Link. Authorization is requested to enter into NJ Transit contract numbers 17045 through 17047 with the firm shown in Exhibit A for construction management, community transportation, vertical transportation, and Access Link. The total value of the 2018 Task Order Consultant Contracts Program, of which these contracts comprise Package 3, will be $70 million. Each contract will extend for 5 years. The maximum task and contract limits are shown in Exhibit B of your materials. Task order consultant contracts will be used on an as-needed basis to supplement in-house staff and are needed to support the capital program, address critical issues, and ensure compliance. We therefore ask your approval of Item 1903-05.
May I have a motion to approve Board Item 1903-5?
So moved.
May I have a second? Second. Any discussion? Joyce, would you please take a roll call?
Roll call vote. Chair Gutierrez-Cachetti?
Yes.
Board Member Caulfield?
Yes.
Board Member Ajmani?
Yes.
And note it for the record, Board Member Castillo is recused. Motion carried.
Thank you. Can we step out and get...
Back. I'd like now Eric to introduce the next item, 1903-06 regarding long slip project.
Director, we are recommending approval of Item 1903-06, New Jersey Transit Resilience Program, Long Slip Fill and Rail Enhancement, Construction Management Services. Authorization is requested to enter into NJ Transit contract number 18-003 with STV Incorporated for the construction management services related to the long slip fill and rail enhancement project at a cost not to exceed $16,443,810.16 plus 5% for contingencies subject to the availability of funds. The long slip fill and rail enhancement project involves the filling of the long slip canal and the construction of new tracks on the filled area to serve ADA accessible high-level boarding platforms, as well as the construction of a passenger and rail personnel facility. Authorization of this item will support operations of commuter rail services to and from Hoboken Yard in advance of and immediately after a storm or other event. It will be at an elevation above the FEMA base elevation as required and will allow for supplemental service to and from Hoboken Terminal during service disruptions elsewhere on the system. In addition, the long slip fill and rail enhancement project will provide additional surge protection of Hoboken Yard equipment and infrastructure, reducing the potential of lesser storm surges that occur on a more frequent basis. We ask your approval of item 1903-96.
May I have a motion to approve Board Item 1903-06?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Joyce, please take a roll call vote.
Roll call vote, Chair Gutierrez Cacchetti?
Yes.
Board Member Caulfield?
Yes.
Board Member Ajmani?
Yes.
Board Member Castillo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
I'd now like Eric to continue on. You're on a roll, Eric, with 1903-07 regarding resiliency program, construction assistance services, and engineering services.
Thank you. We are recommending approval of item 1903-07, NJ Transit Resilience Program, amendment to 2012 Task Order Consultant Contract Program for construction assistance services and additional engineering services. And authorization here is requested to increase the total authorization amount for the 2012 Capital Planning and Programs Task Order Consultant Contract Programs with STV Incorporated, its contract number 13-006C, by $3,970,000 for a maximum authorization amount of $12,735,776 for this contract, and a maximum authorization amount of $121,371,206 for the 2012 Task Order Consultant Contracts Program, subject to the availability of funds. The maximum task order and contract limits for these contracts previously approved for the 2012 Task Order Consultant Contracts Program will not apply to tasks related to the Superstorm Sandy Disaster Recovery and Resilience Program. Authorization of this item will allow STV Incorporated to continue progressing NJ Transit's resilience program by providing technical expertise for the restoration and repair work, including construction assistance and additional engineering services. STV Incorporated specifically will continue work on various components of our Hoboken terminal restoration projects, including the Hoboken Boiler and Terminal Repairs Project, the Hoboken Wayside Power Project, the Hoboken Signal Power Repair Project, and the Hoboken Facilities Power Distribution Systems Repairs Projects, as well as coordination with other Hoboken area projects. We ask your approval of item 1903-07.
May I have a motion to approve Board Item 1903-07? May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Joyce, please take a roll call vote.
Roll call vote, Chair Gutierrez Cacchetti?
Yes.
Board Member Caulfield?
Yes.
Board Member Ajmani?
Yes.
Board Member Castillo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
I will now give Eric a breather and ask Chris Baker, Chief Compliance Officer, to present Board Item 1903-08 regarding adoption of Uniform Ethics Code and Supplemental Code of Ethics. Chris?
We are recommending approval of item 1903-08, adoption of Uniform Ethics Code and Supplemental Code of Ethics. Authorization is requested for the adoption of the Uniform Ethics Code as Corporate-Wide Policy 2.03, which is Exhibit A, and Corporate-Wide Policy 2.3A, the Supplemental Code of Ethics. That's Exhibit B. This is to comply with requirements imposed by Public Law 2018, Chapter 162, including providing guidelines for when it's appropriate for the Chief Ethics Officer to forward the results and findings of a preliminary investigation to the State Ethics Commission, the Office of the Attorney General, County Prosecutor's Office, or any other appropriate agency for further investigation or action. Authorization of this item provides that both the Uniform Ethics Code and the Supplemental Code of Ethics shall apply to all New Jersey Transit board members, officers, and employees, agreement and non-agreement. We ask for your approval of item 1903-08.
May I have a motion to approve Board Item 1903-08?
So moved.
May I have a second? Is there any discussion? Joyce, please take roll.
Roll call vote, Chair Gutierrez Cacchetti?
Yes.
Board Member Caulfield?
Yes.
Board Member Ajmani?
Yes.
Board Member Castillo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. I'd now like to introduce Bill Vaquera, Chief Financial Officer and Treasurer, to present Board Item 1903-09, Budget Proposal Transmittal.
Thank you. We are recommending approval of Item 1903-09, Budget Proposal Transmittal. Authorization is requested that the New Jersey Transit Board of Directors approves the transmission of Exhibit B to the Commissioner of the New Jersey Department of Transportation and to the President of the Senate, the Speaker of the General Assembly, and the Assembly Transportation and Independent Authorities Committee, and the Senate Transportation Committee as required pursuant to New Jersey Transit's reform legislations signed by the Governor late last year. The submission includes a 2-year budget that covers the most recent completed fiscal year, the current fiscal year outlook, fiscal year 20 budget proposal, and a fiscal year 21 forecast. The submission also includes information regarding the corporation's history, organizational structure, staffing, and other performance data. We expect to seek authorization for our fiscal year 20 budget in the ordinary course of business at the July board meeting, subsequent to the state finalizing its budget. Highlights include, for fiscal year 19, with 7 months of actual data and 5 months forecasted, we expect expenses to roughly equal revenues at approximately $2.3 billion, despite fare box revenue being below budget due to the fare discount for rail and some revenue shortfalls in bus. For fiscal year 20, the governor's budget proposal includes an additional $100 million in general fund support for New Jersey Transit after an increase of $167 million last year, for a total state operating subsidy of $407.5 million. Of this, $75 million will replace diversions from the New Jersey Turnpike and the Transportation Trust Fund reserves, and $25 million represents new direct funding, which would result in a total budget of $2.34 billion. There is no fare increase contemplated. The second slide shows the budget sources and uses of funds. Under the governor's budget proposal, fare box and non-fare box revenue would account for 47% of revenue, while the state operating subsidy would provide 17% compared to 13% last year. Capital to operating transfers would revert to $461 million from $511 million this year, representing 20% of revenue. On the expense side, labor and fringe will continue to account for the majority of expenses, 60% of the budget, followed by purchase transportation at 11%. For fiscal year 21, we forecasted a budget totaling $2.472 billion. For purpose of this forecast, we assume the state operating subsidy would remain flat at $407.5 million. Factoring in modest growth in fare box and non-fare box revenue, we would require an additional $138 million in funding, which could come from a combination of fares, other revenue, state or federal support, efficiencies, and/or new dedicated funding streams. Note that this is the first step in a budget process we anticipate will go through June. After the state finalizes its budget, we will seek formal approval for the fiscal year 20 budget, likely at the July board meeting. We ask for your approval of item 1903-09.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve board item 1903-09? May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Joyce, please call roll.
Roll call vote. Chair Gutierrez-Cachetti?
Yes.
Board Member Caulfield?
Yes.
Board Member Ajmani? Yes. Board Member Castillo? Yes. Motion carried.
Thank you. I'd now like to introduce John O'Hearn, the Auditor General, to present Board Item 1903-10 regarding annual independent audit services for fiscal years 2019 through 2023. John?
Thank you, Executive Director. Good evening, Madam Chair, board members. We are respectfully recommending approval of item 1903-10, annual independent audit services for fiscal years 2019 through 2023. As you know, New Jersey Transit is required to have an audit of its books and accounts to be made at least once per year by independent certified public accountants. Authorization is requested to enter into contract number 18-008 with Deloitte & Touche LLP of Parsippany, New Jersey, to provide such independent auditing services for fiscal years 2019, 2020, and 2021. New Jersey Transit has the sole discretion to extend this contract for 2 additional 1-year terms, fiscal years 2022 and fiscal year 2023. Also under contract number 18-008, New Jersey Transit will also have the sole discretion to retain Deloitte & Touche to provide optional services of 3 quarterly reviews of NJ Transit's result of operations for quarters ending September 30th, 2023, December 31st, 2023, and March 31st, 2024. The total value of this authorization for the 5-year period and 3 quarterly reviews after June 30th, 2023 is $2,987,291, subject to the availability of funds. This authorization will also allow the chair or executive director to contract with Deloitte & Touche to provide supplemental audit or other services during the contract period on an as-needed basis at a cost not to exceed $200,000 per fiscal year, subject to the availability of funds. We respectfully ask your approval of item 1903-10.
Thank you, John. May I have a motion to approve board item 1903-10?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Joyce, go ahead and please take roll call.
Roll call vote, Chair Gutierrez Cacchetti.
Yes.
Board Member Caulfield.
Yes.
Board Member Ajmani.
Yes.
Board Member Castillo.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Now I'd like to bring Eric back up for item 1903-11 regarding County Yard Improvement Project.
Thank you, Director. We are recommending approval of item 1903-11, County Yard Improvement Project, acquisition of easements from Amtrak, and a remediation agreement for the Millstone Industrial Tract and certain properties adjacent to County Yard. Authorization here is requested to negotiate and enter into agreements with Amtrak to acquire, first, a permanent easement for a 1.10 acre property for the handy track from milepost 31.90 to milepost 32.0. Second, a permanent easement for 14.5 acres located in County Yard from milepost 32.0 to milepost 33.0. Third, a permanent easement in certain Amtrak properties along the Delco lead totaling 2.9 acres from milepost 33.0 to milepost 36.45 in the city of New Brunswick and township of North Brunswick in the county of Middlesex, New Jersey. And fourth, other temporary and permanent easements as necessary in order to effectuate the County Yard Improvement Project in the amounts discussed in executive session, subject to the availability of funds. In addition, authorization is requested to negotiate and enter into an agreement with Amtrak to delineate cleanup responsibilities for PCBs by New Jersey Transit in the Millstone Industrial Tract and certain properties adjacent to County Yard. Authorization of this item will allow New Jersey Transit to move forward with its County Yard project and provide a safe haven storage of rail cars and locomotives in a strategically beneficial location along the Northeast Corridor. It will provide New Jersey Transit with an additional facility to maintain our equipment at a midline location on the Northeast Corridor and permit the evacuation of rolling stock from both the Meadows Maintenance Complex and Morrisville Yard when extreme weather threatens service. We ask your approval of item 1903-11.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve board item 1903-11?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Joyce, please take roll.
Roll call vote, Chair Gutierrez Cacchetti.
Yes.
Board Member Caulfield.
Yes.
Board Member Ajmani.
Yes.
Board Member Castillo.
Yes.
Motion carried.
I'd now like Eric to carry on with 1903-12, a related project of the County Yard project.
We are recommending approval of item 1903-12, County Yard Improvement Project, acquisition of 298 Jersey Avenue, LLC, and 120 Jersey Avenue, LLC, New Brunswick, New Jersey, private property. Authorization is requested to take any and all actions necessary to acquire, in accordance with the eminent domain law of 1971, from 298 Jersey Avenue, LLC, a portion of the property located at 298 Jersey Avenue. It's block 242, lot 5.02, New Brunswick, New Jersey, also known as parcels 5A and E5B, and 120 Jersey Avenue, Block 242, Lot 3.02, New Brunswick, New Jersey, not to exceed the amount discussed in executive session, subject to the availability of funds. Authorization is also requested to file complaints and condemnation and file and record declarations of taking to acquire said parcels and deposit the estimated just compensation with the clerk of the Superior Court. The acquisition of property from 298 Jersey Avenue LLC and 120 Jersey Avenue LLC is essential for the expansion of County Yard, which will allow for the safe haven storage of rail cars and locomotives in a strategically beneficial location along the Northeast Corridor. We ask your approval of the item.
May I have a motion to approve board item number 1903-12?
So moved.
May I have a second? Second. Any discussion? Joyce, please take roll.
Roll call vote. Chair Gutierrez Cacchetti?
Yes.
Board Member Caulfield?
Yes.
Board Member Ajmani? Yes. Board Member Castillo? Yes. Motion carried.
Thank you. Going from one exciting project to another, Eric, I'd like Eric to present board item 1903-13 regarding Portal Bridge project.
And then maybe I can have the night off, Kevin. We are recommending approval of item 1903-13, New Jersey Transit Portal North Bridge Project real estate acquisition. Authorization is requested to take any and all actions necessary to acquire parcels 133 and 207 in accordance with the eminent domain law of 1971, not to exceed an amount as discussed in executive session, subject to the availability of funds. At the same time, authorization is also requested to file complaints and condemnation and file a record and a declaration of taking where necessary to acquire parcels 117, 125, 126, 127, and 209, or other parcels for the Portal North Bridge project, and deposit the estimated just compensation with the clerk of the Superior Court. Authorization of this item will allow us to acquire multiple properties to provide for compensatory payment to property owners that hold title to land rights needed for the project, so long as NJ Transit attempts to acquire the parcels from the property owners through bona fide negotiations as required by the Eminent Domain Act of 1971. We ask your approval of item 1903-13.
Thank you, Eric. May I have a motion to approve board item 1903-13?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Joyce, please take roll.
Roll call vote. Chair Gutierrez Cacchetti?
Yes.
Board Member Caulfield?
Yes.
Board Member Ajmani?
Yes.
Board Member Castillo? Yes. Motion carried.
Thank you. Eric, we'll get you a bottle of water, I promise.
Eric, isn't it nice to know that you have a lot to do after PTC is over? With that, the last item for the night, I would like to bring Bill back to present 1903-14 regarding a personal injury claim. Bill?
We are recommending approval of item 1903-14, personal injury claim of Sobrina Fajardo. Authorization is requested to settle the claim of Sobrina Fajardo through her attorney at an amount discussed in executive session. The Attorney General has approved the proposed settlement subject to the availability of funds. We ask for your approval of item 1903-14.
May I have a motion? May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Roll call vote. Chair Gutierrez Cacchetti?
Yes.
Board Member Caulfield?
Yes.
Board Member Ajmani?
Yes.
Board Member Castillo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Since there is no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? If there is none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.